think about it as well as like networking and a networking event. You want to talk to as many people as possible. You want to talk to the right people, and you want to make sure that like you came away from that going, okay, I said the right thing there. I think they genuinely got an idea of what I do. That's exactly what like LinkedIn should be used for.
Laura White. Laura is head of GTM at Happystack, a startup based in Dublin, and she is the founder of GoToGirl, GTM strategist specialist.
When like the world was all using like ChatGPT, our expectations were kind of like, do my thinking for me. Oh no, wait, it's spitting out the exact same stuff and everyone is talking the exact same way. So I think like once you realize like these tools are not going to be like your brain, it like puts structure on your thoughts, but it isn't going to be smarter or better than your brain.
All right, Laura White, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Delighted.
Question that we ask everyone to start with. What is your current go-to AI tool, and what do you find yourself using it for on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I'm a Claude girl. Have been probably since the beginning of the year. And not too excitingly, but use it to essentially like make my job more efficient. Try to use it to automate myself out of as many tasks as possible. We're kind of, because we're building a fast-paced startup here, you're kind of constantly trying to automate yourself out of a task or out of your job, so you can finish with that, move on to the next thing. But more kind of specifically, I basically use it as like a campaign analytics, data analytics tool to help me fully understand the impact of the work that we're doing for our partners, what's working, what's not. And it helps me to kind of set up my day of like prioritization. One of the things I kind of do on like a Monday or a Friday, kind of the top of the week, bottom of the week, is we have our Claude set up to our Slack channels, and all of our Slack, all of our communication internally and partner communication happens on Slack. So everything is in that like one place. So I like to kind of say like, hey Claude, can you just review our like different Slack channels? What, like, is there anything I haven't gotten back to? What's the kind of temperature of our partners right now? Is there anyone unhappy, happy, like kind of a traffic light system of our partners? Kind of treating it like a CRM, but like an action list then off the back of it. So it's like, okay, you need to get back to these 10 people. And I find that like just hugely useful than trying to just be like, okay, let's put together my to-do list, where I'm just like clicking around different places and trying to like find a flow or find what to do. It just like, it does it in like 5 minutes in the morning and I'm set up for the day. So ideal. Yeah. Mainly efficiencies and trying to create another me to just do the stuff in the background that like I can happily automate. Yeah, for sure.
So for people who don't know, who are listening, you were at our event in Dublin last month, and you kind of spoke about the sort of personal branding side of things and LinkedIn and all that stuff, which I definitely like really want to get into. But something that's really interested me that came out of that event was everybody was talking about this idea of still retaining that human connection and that sort of human side of it. And what you've just said there is really interesting, and it's something that other people have mentioned on the podcast as well, is some people are perhaps leaning on AI a little bit too much to do that automation. And you said they're like creating another version of Laura, whereas I think a lot of other people are potentially viewing it as a replacement rather than an addition. Is that something that you kind of found yourself doing initially, or did you find that balance quite quickly? And how does that work, A, for yourself, and B, within your organization working with partners?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like probably 18 months ago, when like the world was all using like ChatGPT, our expectations were kind of like, do my thinking for me, like come up with ideas for me, be a better brain than I am, or like be an expert in this, and like giving it all these kind of wrong prompts and having these like, probably initially the first like 12 months of using it, we were all just like, oh my God, ChatGPT knows everything. And it like thinks so amazingly. And like, and then we all started to come around to realization like, oh no, wait, it's spitting out the exact same stuff. And everyone is talking the exact same way, posting the exact same like words or phrasing of stuff. And it's like, okay, no, this is actually making us all sound really, really dumb, really like unauthentic, all of that. And then Claude kind of came along, and our expectation for like, sorry, with ChatGPT, we started getting like into arguments, with it. It's like, no, sound more human. No, like sound more like this, like sound more like me. And then when Claude came around, our expectation of that was even higher. We wanted that to be something that was going to be like way better and way more like able to generate ideas. So I think like once you realize like these tools are not going to be like your brain or better than your brain, it's like to improve efficiency, improve processes. It like puts structure on your thoughts, but it isn't going to be smarter or better than your brain or have like better ideas. They absolutely have to come from you. Um and I think about like personal branding and all of that, like there are people who again probably started posting on LinkedIn like 18 months ago, 24 months ago, maybe started off without AI tools, then started using AI tools to post everything. And they kind of got away with murder and have like built up massive amounts of following off the back of like loads of AI um like slop, as we say, which nobody was able to recognize. Nobody was able to realize it. Like, oh, okay, like this person knows loads and is really like insightful and sharing loads. And then everyone kind of cottoned on to like, okay, well, like you can't be having that many conversations with founders in a week that are giving you like profound amounts of information and and insight into something. I'd be like, hey, there's not enough hours in the day. So people kind of cottoned on to like, okay, well, it's even if it's true, it just kind of sounds really bullshitty, And I think we're out the other kind of side of it now, where really people are like craving realness and like people who actually have stuff to say, and they're saying it exactly in their own words and their own experiences, and it doesn't feel like there's as much lies and just like out there. So I think we're at a better place where people are understanding what these tools are supposed to be for and what they're not supposed to be for, I think, anyway.
Yeah, it's such a good point, especially relating to that sort of personal branding side of things, because it's in the title, personal, and you have to, again, going back to, what you were saying on stage and things, and a caveat here, like you really helped me give our Pit Stop CEO, Richie, a kick up the ass, because he, again, is from that product side of things. And it's not that he doesn't see the value, but we were having a conversation the other day and he was like, what does me posting about my walking treadmill and my standing desk do for Pit Stop, and what it gets 10 likes and stuff? And I was like, well, you not posting about it, we know does nothing. So yeah, first of all, thank you for that and helping me with that, and I'm sure we'll get there. But like you said, it's I think a lot of people, myself included, got a bit confused for a while, and I thought, oh well, if it knows enough about me, it'll kind of just write posts for me and things. Now, for me, thinking, that was a kind of place to start, and I think a lot of other people do. Where actually is a good place to start when it comes to building that sort of personal brand? I recognize, for anyone listening, this is kind of through the lens of LinkedIn. We're not necessarily going into Instagram and all that sort of stuff. Thinking about it on LinkedIn, because it's so noisy on there now, Laura. Like there's so much going on, and it's easy to think like what Richie said, like what use is my post going to do? So I might as well just get AI to do it rather than actually sitting and thinking about it, because what's the point?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think with anything with building your brand on LinkedIn is like bring it back to kind of just like absolute basics of, okay, what do you want to use this channel for? Is it mainly going to be finding the right customers? So like understanding exactly who your customers are and how they want to be spoken to, and the value that you provide and the solution that you solve. and or sorry, the problem that you solve. And it's about like, okay, what if somebody goes onto your page for even a half second, what do they get from you? Like like just even basics of like, let's put your profile photo at least in the last decade, of yourself. Let's put a tagline for exactly the problem that you solve or the outcomes that you provide. Like get like, Canva's very, very quick to just do an AI like a banner or something of your company or of your slogan or something like that. And then when it comes to like the posting, you obviously want to be posting to your ICP ideally. So connecting every day, if it's 20 connections every day to your ICP. And once you've kind of built up, maybe 20, 30, 40 connections that you're like, okay, the right people should see this, and I'll continue to build that up. Start to, I kind of think about it as like going on a date with Claude. Like a really bad one if you were Claude, but going on a date and just talking about yourself like to the other person the entire time. Okay, so like a bad date. And give it as much information as possible about you, about your customer, but like, you want to get that personality across. So, things that you find funny, books that you've read, movies that you love, quotes that you live and die by, memes that you find humorous. You're like, anytime you see them, they will make you laugh out loud. Give it all of this kind of information. Give it example posts like of things that you would say, or even one or two lines, and feed it all of this information at once and like iterate on it. So like, say like, if you have an article that you read and you're like, okay, I just read this article and these are like my 3 or 4 things that like initially came to mind and what I would like to put out there. Put all that into Claude. I'm saying Claude, but like there are other tools out there for like LinkedIn specific kind of posting. Um, and see what comes back, right? And if it comes back and it sounds like, read it out loud, and if it sounds nothing like how you would speak if you were in a pub or like talking to your friends, then rewrite it and just keep iterating on that until you're like super happy. Because I think in the beginning, especially if you're just thinking of posting like once a week, everybody has time to put together like one post a week, and do that for maybe 4 to 6 weeks or something. Get a general idea of like what's resonating, what's getting most kind of traction. And I don't mean it from like, the likes and the engagement and the reshares and stuff like that. Like the vanity metrics just have to go. It's about your little face, like in your profile photo, turning up every day and taking like an action. And that doesn't need to be posting every day, but like liking other people, your ICP's comments or posts, or engaging on there. But it's about like your face just showing up on there. Think about it as well as like networking at a networking event, working a room. You want to talk to as many people as possible. You want to talk to the right people, and you want to make sure that like you came away from that going, okay, I said the right thing there. I think they generally got an idea of what I do. That's exactly what like LinkedIn should be used for. And it's like, you want it to be a tool that you use to show up on, to explain what you do over and over again. And so that in a room that you're not in, that somebody says like, oh, do you know who's actually really good at like personal branding? If you want to go speak to them, it's like Laura. She talks about that a lot, and she's good on LinkedIn and blah blah blah. That's what you want, and that's the kind of goals that you like set out for yourself initially to like get started. And start with one post a week. That's not too hard. And kind of going back to your point about the treadmill and stuff, like people buy from people. Okay, people want to feel like that human connection. They don't just want to be thrown with like feature updates or like flat kind of posts about nothing. It's like someone, like how someone operates, or how, and people are very intrigued of like how people actually like get through their working day and are really efficient. And if that's walking on a treadmill, then go out and like talk about that, you know? And that's fine. And if you're looking at the likes, you'll never enjoy posting on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. It's like, just get it done. Like definitely, I mean, there's certainly a balance between the like overly personal stuff and then like and nothing work related to like personal and work related. I love this arena here. This is lovely, you know? Um, so yeah, that's how to kind of get started is update your profile to like have it make sense to what you want to do. Set out some goals initially of like what you want to achieve by posting. Is it just like, you know, staying relevant, staying top of mind, all of that? Then great. Use the tools, but like educate the tools on who you are and like iterate it as much as possible for the posting. And enjoy it as well. You're only gonna keep doing it. It's only going to become sticky if it's actually something that you're putting out there that just feels so real to you, and then you'll keep coming back to it. Like I know that there's been times where I've let AI do the entire post and I put it out and I'm so like, oh, that's just like not me. It's like people are just gonna be like, this isn't real. It's like I don't even know if I have those thoughts. You know, it's like I don't even know if that day even happened, you know. And whereas like when I write a post, like the one even that I did for the follow-up of the pit stop event, like that was completely just from the heart of like, you know, that was just like, okay, this was the situation. This is the event that I did. This is how it made me feel, blah, 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 blah. And like, I loved putting that out because it felt so me and it felt like a good way to summarize or sum up like an event and stuff based off like what we discussed at it and things. So yeah, I think you have to enjoy it and don't look at the vanity metrics at all.
Yeah, that post you put out was so Emmett, our founder, he used that when we were talking to Richie the other day as like an example of why to do it. And, you know, the key word that was used there, and it's kind of the line that I've sort of taken, I guess my sort of tone of voice is that like vulnerability, you know, side of things. It's really interesting what you've said about the metrics there. So for me, coming at the GTM world from a marketing side of things and interacting with my colleagues who aren't on the marketing side of things, I guess their first question would be, what do I track then? And if I'm honest, for me on the marketing side, it's kind of difficult to quantify, isn't it? Because you're like, well, you just want to be top of mind for people. But equally, you can't be in every room around, you know, the world and stuff. Because like you said, LinkedIn, it's global, isn't it? You know, there's people in America maybe thinking about Laura, there's people in Ireland, there's people in London, whatever it is. It
Yeah.
is, have you got a specific AI tool that you're using, or is it just, maybe I'm being a bit too like vibey and woo woo here. Like, do you just kind of get a general sense that momentum is gaining? Like how do you kind of track that sort of idea of staying top of mind?
Yeah, of course. So I think there's kind of two folds to it. So if you're like actively posting and you're staying top of mind, you're more likely to get a response to a LinkedIn DM from your from your customer, from your ideal customer. So, and then what is also why I say don't look at the like vanity metrics is that more than likely your customer is probably not going to like your post or comment on your post. They're going to see it and they're going to DM you and go, hey, listen, I like what you said there. I think it's going to solve a problem for us, blah, blah, blah. Let's let's talk. Or it works in reverse if you outbound them. So it's kind of the compounding effects of posting and with DMs and, email or whatever other channels that you have, that it all starts to just really make sense. And you have customers that you've spoken to and directly in DMs, and if they go to your page and they don't really get an idea of like, okay, who is this? What are they about? Okay, their last post was like a work anniversary at a company that they don't work in anymore. This is confusing. You just don't respond. You don't get as much of a response. But if you're if you go onto someone's page and they're like, okay, this person looks like they know what the hell they're talking about, you're absolutely more than likely to respond. There isn't necessarily a tool that I use for reporting. It all just, we kind of look at it like a flywheel, like of compounding consistent. And I will caveat that we haven't yet been like loud or noisy in our go to market at all. We will be this summer, so watch this space. But we will see that more and more. And we treat it as that. And we just know how powerful LinkedIn as a tool is, because you are directly getting into the inbox of the person that you want to speak to, and you more than likely know that they've at least seen it, you know. So yeah, there's no metrics. And I know that's hard from like marketing teams and sales teams to be like, how is the effort? It is a longer play, like the content play, it always is, but it's certainly worth having than not, for sure.
It also, in the discussions that we've had, both internally and externally, it kind of seems like it's a non-negotiable now in terms of, for me, you know, drawing up a marketing strategy. I don't, like you said, I don't necessarily view it as, it's almost like funnel adjacent, but it leads into this kind of idea of founder-led sales and building in public. I'm hearing people saying a lot as well. I had a coffee with a friend down here in Cornwall the other day, a guy called John, and he's building actually like a podcast kind of company. And he's started a podcast called Building in Public about, very meta. He's started a podcast and he's doing all these LinkedIn content about the podcast production company he's building and doing all that. And he was telling me like he's seeing enormous success from it because it's making kind of himself available. And I think there's maybe a certain level of, when you're thinking about ICPs and your kind of potential customers, there's a maybe certain level of like ego within them of like, oh, well, I'm getting to talk to the founder. I'm getting to talk to this, you know, I'm not being palmed off on a sales rep. I'm getting straight through to the person that started this thing. So maybe there's a certain level of prestige around that. And I think that's maybe why it's become so important. But equally, that's so difficult for a founder, a CEO, someone there, you know, trying to balance a million things, and maybe they're deep in product or they're deep in, you know, sales or whatever it is, and suddenly they have to start writing about their morning routine. You know, it suddenly becomes kind of very difficult. I realize there's not really a question in there, Laura, but it's just sort of an observation I sort of wanted to make, because it's so important now, attached to a marketing strategy.
Yeah, of course. And I think there's also this misconception maybe that, like, you know, as soon as you have a business or you're starting it, you need to be kind of like telling every single day of that journey. Like, there is, you know, we can all own our own narrative at a certain point, and like own our hindsight and all of that things I did differently, or things I would have done differently on day one of starting this. But like, I think that like building in the wild thing and showing everything is a wonderful concept. I love it from like even a D2C point of view, but I love it from a B2B. And I think there needs to be more of it. It's just that in B2B, there's like a lot of time where there's absolutely nothing, you know, nothing happening. And it's just damage control, and it's just like putting out fires in the background. And like, it's the last thing you want to do is go onto LinkedIn and be like, we had an absolute disaster of a day. You know, you're not going to share it all, and you're going to share the highlights and the lowlights, of course. So I understand that building the wild is kind of is great. And I sympathize with some of the founders that I speak to, are just like, oh, I couldn't just like, what would I post about today? There will come a time where it just makes more sense when you are more in the market and you're in that flow and you know your customer and you know who you're speaking to all of the time, that those things just become so much easier and so much more shareable and natural, and you're not forcing it, you know. And you know, you don't have to just post things for the sake of it either, if it doesn't feel real. But I think the having just those goals and that plan ahead of time will help you to fill those gaps as well. Like even people find they have like they at least have like a one post a week, like non-negotiable, where like they'll talk about, like they might go on a rant or something for like one day, or they might pick like their top 5 best marketing like things they've seen this week or something, and make something out of that, and that's kind of like their anchor or something in the week, or in the month, or every 2 weeks or something. So like having those kind of things really helps as well, because then you're not kind of like, oh, do I put up something about me going for a run this morning and only being able to like do 1K instead of 5K that I said, it's like turning that into a post. It's like, oh, I don't really know if I want to talk about that, but maybe it might resonate with people as well,
Yeah,
Uh,
it's the like, yeah, I went on holiday to Cancun, and here's what it taught me about B2B SaaS sales. So one of those, nobody wants to see those posts, do they?
they're like, please just go on your holiday and enjoy yourself, read a book, and leave us alone.
Yeah, yeah. It can be a bit cringy. It's
Yeah.
it's really it's really cool as well. Like what the post that you did about the event in Dublin that we had, it really like resonated with me, because you kind of mentioned, this idea of imposter syndrome. And I think it's something that everybody feels, especially founders, CEOs, regardless of how successful you've been in the past, anything like that. I think we all have that moment where we're like, what am I doing in this room on this day? Like, who am I to be doing this? And I think that can often be especially amplified when it comes to posting on LinkedIn. And like you said, having, you can train Claude or ChatGPT, or, other tools are available, and give it all the information and everything like that. And that sometimes spits back at you, and it does make you realize like, oh, I have done quite a lot actually. And, I spoke to Claude the other day and was like, I feel like I've done nothing today. And then it kind of came back and was like, bro, you've done pretty well. And I was like, okay, good. But equally, you can still sometimes, get those feelings. And I think party to what you just said there about, oh, I've got nothing to post. If you've got this kind of idea of feeling like, who am I to be posting on top of that? That
Yeah.
can sometimes create a bit of a spiral. And then, like you said, 2-3 months go by and you've not posted anything, and you're like, oh, am I kind of, sort of wasting my time? What I realize I may be going off topic a little bit with this, but hopefully it kind of resonates with people. Like you said, humans buy from humans, humans sell to humans. So it's a very human condition, this. So what, maybe you could like speak a bit more to your sort of, journey with that, whether it's, maybe through the lens of speaking at the event and stuff. And then how did you kind of overcome that and just get over that fear and just be like, you know what, I kind of don't give a shit. And I know I've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by just putting myself out there a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, because the whole imposter syndrome thing, if you like suffer from it, you're going to have it anyway if you don't
Yeah.
post, and you're going to have it if you do post. So you're better to be posting and have imposter syndrome than not doing anything at all over here, because imposter syndrome is just going to be something that follows you in every aspect of anything anyway. And you've way more to gain from putting yourself out there and having imposter syndrome than not. And I think the showing up and being authentic kind of ties into that as well. So like, even if people need more like inspiration of what to post, it's like getting out there and networking and speaking to people, and actually like getting away from the desk and having good conversations, and not being relying on those like AI tools again to do that thinking and create these posts in their entirety for you, will help you to like really feel like you have a voice and you have something to say. So, when I think about the event, like there's probably a difference between imposter syndrome and actually just being like a bit rusty from not doing it for a while. It was actually, as soon as the microphone was in my hand, I was like, oh God, I haven't done this in a while. What am I talking about again? And so I didn't necessarily have imposter syndrome. I was more like, God, I'm out of practice here.
Yeah.
This is funny. Because I would be normally quite good at turning up to these things and like winging it, because I'd be constantly talking about it all the time. So it would be something that I would just come very natural. But I was like, I actually haven't spoken about this maybe in like 2.5 years, and the world is very different now. And what am I on about? So there was a bit of that, and then, but I think I think the imposter syndrome thing as well can be helped by actually staying like in tune and educated and in the space that you are an expert in. Like if you're an expert, but you learned about something 10 years ago and you haven't fine tuned things, you haven't, had that growth kind of mindset and like been with the times, and then you're still posting about things like there's an element of not necessarily it's imposter syndrome, like you're actually just like don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
know
You just don't know.
and you just don't know. So I think sometimes for me, if I was to speak to somebody, or I talk to founders all the time, and I hate going on calls if I haven't done like as much prep as I need to do for it, or like I haven't actually brushed up on what's needed to be, what they need to know, or like outdated ways of thinking and stuff like that. And that, I think, when you're posting on LinkedIn, if that's the same kind of way, you're going to have those doubts, and you're going to have like, I need to get like up to date on things, but I have my own opinions on the way the world is going, um and we can't allow AI to take that over, take your brain over. Certainly from the comments, I know I talked about this at the event as well, like people using AI tools for comments under
Yeah.
posts, like just a disaster. Like honestly, they're just so bad. I don't know like what the thought process behind those promptings and things are for those tools, because like it honestly is like sound like a complete moron in your response.
Yeah.
Is honestly what the prompts like they must be saying. So yeah, I kind of answered loads of little bits like there, but I think that there's a few ways to it. Is like, one, if you are the expert, you are the expert. So like posting about what you know and what you're comfortable with, but constantly evolving and growing and learning about your space, you'll be able to like enjoy posting more about that, for sure, and showing up as yourself. Um but yeah, you're gonna have imposter syndrome even if you do it. I don't have it on LinkedIn anymore because I think I've just been doing it so often, and I've gotten to a place where I really, really enjoy when I post. I'm not
Yeah.
going on and checking. Like, I mean, everyone does it, but they'll be like, "Oh, how many likes now have I got? How like what's going on there?" Like, we all still love the little vanity metrics, but um, they're not important. It's what's important for me is that I show up and people know about me, what I'm
Mhm.
at, and what I'm good for, and that's all that matters, and that's how everyone, I think, should be thinking about it.
100%. Joe Rogan, whether you like him or not, he's got an amazing quote about, getting rid of that sort of feeling. And he calls it building a mountain with layers of paint. And
Yeah,
every day you're just putting another layer on. And
yeah,
it's this idea of building an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are.
yeah,
And I think like you said, once you've posted it for X amount of time, you're like, well, I'm now Laura who posts on LinkedIn. So I don't need to feel weird about it anymore because that's who I am. Um,
exactly.
it's weird. You kind of got into it there before I even had to ask it. We're on the right lines here today, Laura. But I really wanted to talk about the idea of utilizing AI to not just post but interact with people on
Mhm.
on kind of social channels or on LinkedIn as well, because I think using it to sort of build up essentially like a vault of who you are to help you kind of craft posts and things like that's such a great idea and such a great way of thinking around it. But yeah, when it comes to actually interacting with people, like you said, like, okay, and reply to this person like a moron. That does seem to be literally the prompt that is given. What is, but equally, I imagine, especially now, and AI is moving so quickly, it's so overwhelming. I imagine it won't be long before there are tools that genuinely can help with this and will be able to talk like Laura or like Sandy or, where does that balance sit between too much and too little? And equally, even if it's you doing it, if you're doing it at a large volume, people often still think it's AI anyway. So yeah, where does that balance sit between using AI to interact with people on social channels, and how can people go about it in a sustainable way where it's still kind of sounds like them and you're not being a moron.
Yeah, no, it's really good, like really good question, and it's so interesting because I feel right now there's like no place for AI when it comes to like your comments, your opinions, your
Interesting.
thoughts on something. Um, it's yeah. But cut to, 6 months later, I'd be like, there's this amazing tool that can
Yeah.
sound exactly like you and comment on things, and it's brilliant for reach and it's great for your personal brand. Yeah, they don't exist yet. I mean, I, I think there's a place for it where there's like where it's almost like acting as a tool where you're showing up and you're, like I said, with that, like your profile photo appearing around LinkedIn and gaining kind of traction through that way. That maybe it is just those kind of like selecting what kind of posts you would respond on and giving your voice to that. But there's just the AI tools now are kind of just summarizing the post and saying like, couldn't agree
Couldn't
more
agree
with
more.
this,
Yes.
like
That's all
with
I
this
ever
like
see.
really like pick like bit of just the post that's summarized. And you're just, you're kind of like, it gives me the complete ick, like it
Yeah, me
just the
too.
complete ick. And I would probably look at someone and judge them before it.
Yeah.
So I think right now there's like no place for it. And I think
Cool.
it's because like we have to like read something and be like, actually be able to come up with that response or that comment or that thought ourselves. We just do. Like when I say use AI tools for helping you to post on LinkedIn, I'm saying like give it all the information, give it your thoughts, give it your ideas, give it your like opinions on things, experiences on things, your take on things, and just use AI to craft it, to put it into a structure, or like make kind of sense of it a bit, or like, I'm rambling here, especially if you use like voice tools and things like that as well. Might go out for a walk and be like, I read this article, this is how it made me feel. I probably can't say exactly how it made me feel, so maybe make it a little bit PG, the PG version or something, you know. So yeah, but I think from a commons point of view, no place for it. But I think there are good AI tools that will help you to connect with your ICPs, with helping you to uh like understand what kind of like messaging and stuff that you can send to them in DMs. I think there's place for AI completely in that space, just used right as well. That it doesn't feel like it's a 1 to 1,000 like message. It needs to have that like very 1 to 1 feel.
Yeah.
That person reading it is only going to feel like it's for them. Um, and yeah, there's pros and cons to AI, but I don't think there's a place for it yet in the comment section of anywhere on any social channel.
It just comes down to this idea of authenticity again, doesn't it? And I think that's because it is a direct line straight to that person. It's not, sometimes when you're posting on LinkedIn, you're like, I'm kind of posting this out into the ether and hoping that it's like fishing. I'm casting it in and hopefully, but whereas once you're actually, in a DM or in a comment section, it's similar to what we're doing now. Like I am directly addressing Laura right now.
Uh-huh.
And there needs to be a certain level of, being authentic and staying that. And again, that was a big theme. We were actually surprised after that event we had in Dublin and things, and we came away from it. I'm not saying we were going in expecting it to be negative, but one of the big themes of it was everyone's just so overwhelmed by AI and there's so much noise and so much going on and blah, blah, blah. And actually the main thing that came out was, yeah, these tools are great. And it's echoing what you said at the beginning. These tools are great and stuff, but actually what we want is to do this. I want to
Uh-huh.
be able to, and that's why I've got the best job at Pitstop, because I get to do this every week. But like, we want to talk to each other and we want to do this. And I think for me, one of my big learnings, and like I said, I'm from the marketing side anyway, but one of my big learnings was like carry that on as much as possible. in an increasingly like digital and AI native world, you know? And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm, you know, using my crystal ball here a bit too much, but I genuinely think the people that continue to do that and maintain that human side are going to be the winners in this race, bubble, whatever you want to call it.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah. And that was a really nice feeling from the event too, because I think I was like apprehensive enough to go and speak about kind of these like practical tools and it being so like losing that human
Yeah.
aspect to things. And I think the thread that went through everyone who spoke, which was wonderful, is that like nothing beats like, you know, peer-to-peer feedback and like sitting down at a whiteboard and talking things out and like strategy and networking events and just being face to face and going out and talking about yourself and what you do in your business. And you know, there's something so much more powerful about that. Yes, it's not scalable, and that's what you use LinkedIn to be scalable. But the more you go out and practice talking about what you do and who you are, and almost practice being yourself, is like it helps you to be more yourself online for sure. And I think like it's different from like say Instagram or TikTok where people have like brands and stuff, and it's very important to be like your authentic self, and that's how they've built the brands. And sometimes on a B2B side where we want to be very professional, and it's like don't bring yourself to work, and you know it's a little bit harder, especially from a more like corporate point of view. I mean, startup world, we're probably too much like ourselves. People need to,
Yeah, me too.
No, but I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like we completely come as ourselves, and that helps you as well to show up online as you are. But you know, being in the office every day, interacting with people, that helps massively as well. Like I think if you're kind of working from home and you're too remote, and then you're posting on LinkedIn, you feel just very like at your laptop. You're not, you know, you're not getting that human feel. And if you don't get that human feel, you kind of forget how to be a human. Like if people go really, really long without seeing people or interacting, like it's really hard. You know, think about like with COVID, you know, when we were all like locked up and then we'd meet people and be like, I don't know how to interact
Do this.
here. To do this. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, it was a really nice common theme throughout the whole event. That was just like, I think, and it's funny they say kind of relieved that it was like, thank God we didn't just all come away with these like, here's all these tools, here's all these prompts, here's all these like things that like are going to help you advance in AI. It's like, no, actually just use it as in an efficient way to automate yourself out of the jobs that you don't want to do. And that's what it's there for, the system and the processes. But humans will win overall.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. They're called tools for a reason. They're there for us to use and for us to put down when we need to use another one. Laura, this has been amazing. Like I said when we first started, I like you've genuinely like helped me with, you know, after your talk, but you've also helped me give my CEO a kick up the ass. So I'm very thankful for that. And he did his first post yesterday about his about his treadmill and his setup, and it's actually done really well on LinkedIn. So I'm that's given me some ammunition for me to do it. Where can people go if they want to find out more about you and what you get up to?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently working at Happystack, so happystack.com. And then Laura White on LinkedIn. I think I'm Laura White at Happystack, I think, on LinkedIn. So and I'm delighted about that post now. I'll have to go on and like it and comment on it as myself.
Please do. As yourself. No AI tools. Yeah, no AI tools. Love it.
Super. Thanks so much, Sandy. I love that.
Thanks. Amazing. Thank you, Laura. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we will see you all for the next one.